Hey, I'm Heidzalyn with Austin Entertainment Management, here with my friend Joe Welch, who is the Will Fairy. She's so awesome, you guys. So,
You know what? I have not had a chance to say this. You're awesome.
ah, well,
I
you
know.
said earlier that you wouldn't want to see me thrown in a ditch when I die.
No,
So,
you
I
took
feel
me on
like
hard.
that's equivalent to like you're awesome.
Oh my gosh. So
So,
here we are. We're coming back for part three. I want to thank you guys so much for watching parts one and two. It has been such a delight to have this conversation. And I know that this is like the tip of the iceberg. What are we talking about today? Wills. And I get it. You might be out there on the road hustling, eating egg salad sandwiches out of the local places and donuts and bad coffee. They might pay you, they may not. Like, I mean, the musician life is hard. My name is Joe Welch, and I am the beneficiary's best friend. My company is the Will Fairy. And the reason I am that is because I'm looking out not only for you, but also for your families. I've talked to a lot of musicians, and we in our last episode talked about people who died without their will. So we know that tomorrow's not promised, and we're trying to make sure that we can protect you affordably, mind you, for tomorrow. And so I have the Will Fairy Challenge that's coming up, and that's just such a great way for you for free. You don't have to commit to anything to start to get your mind wrapped around that. And in case you haven't figured it out, I love having a lot of fun, and we do a lot of laughing, and we're very excitable and excited with each other. Like, how can we make this even more fun so that people want to get their wills done? Right. And so I like fun, but like you, I'm an artist and always got a full-time job, right? Because I was afraid to just kind of delve into all the places where I was on my own without a boss. My husband is a blues musician known in the international circles as well as an award winner, and he's in the midst of doing his next record. And a lot of it is also us just doing the thing behind the scenes. And I come to you to say, come check things out, ask questions, know that you have a friend here who understands what you're going through. If you're making $50 a gig, no dollars a gig, $500 a gig, $500 a person, whatever it is, at its core, this is that support that we can bring you to the next place, right?
that's what
So,
we're doing here with Austin Entertainment Management. It's like adulting support group for musicians. All the things you might be forgetting about while you're off doing creative things and having fun. We direct you back over here. We're still gonna have fun. Unlike
mhm,
other people that like are gonna be like, oh, this is boring
I
and I don't
know.
want to do it. No, no, that is not what Joe does in
That
her
is
space with this challenge.
no.
So this is why you guys gotta hear about it.
I know, I know. And we're going to talk about money mindset. And you might be like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, I barely get paid, or I'm all doing this after work. I have to keep my day job, or whatever that is. I think one, that actually has a huge impact on how we see ourselves when it comes to value. As a first generation American, a daughter of immigrant parents, as someone who grew up as a woman, also a Latina woman, like, there's so many ways where we can feel invisible, like we don't belong, like we're not worthy. And that extends to musicians. The pandemic was really hard for a lot of people, especially in the blues world, watching the disparity of health, like who has health insurance and those kind of structures in place. Depending on where you are in your career, you may or may not have that because it's so expensive. And so, again, really thinking about how can we support you? Well, we have to back up and say, how do you look at yourself? Heidi, what do you think about money? Do you think, and actually you guys can also chat go ahead and put in the chat or in the comments below, is money good? Is money bad? Like, I don't know. What do you think? What comes to mind when I say, what do you think about money?
Okay, so we're gonna backtrack to as early as last year. I think truthfully, if I were to examine what I was really thinking about, money is bad. Okay, and that's my mindset. I would do things for free. I would like do whatever. I'm not worried about money. I am not a numbers person. I'm a words person. And that is how I've kind of labeled myself. And that's put me into a box of I can't learn about this stuff. And so
Okay,
it's
hold on.
caused me to put that
Yeah,
off.
Put it in the comments. Are you like that? You're like, I'm busy. I'm focused here on the things I'm good at, but I'm not good at numbers. I'm not good at finances, right? Like I gotta admit, I suck. I want it to be better, but it's hard when you're busy being creative.
Hmm.
So it was bad. Where are you today?
Well, I made a concentrated effort to start cleaning that attitude up. I realized that it was limiting, that what I was telling myself about money was not true and it was a lie because other people were not experiencing the same thing. And so that means that if it's true for some people, it could also be true for me. And so this year, I am exploring how those things are true for me. And interestingly enough, money is beginning to flow a lot easier than what it was
Right.
before this change of attitude. And including, I am opening up my mindset to entertain the idea that it's worth my time to go to your challenge and work on this stuff because just because I don't know about numbers and I don't really understand about how all this stuff works when I die does not mean I am incapable of understanding these things. And my resistance comes from my viewpoint of money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt the same way. I felt like I didn't have value. I only had value in context of doing something for somebody else. Like I didn't have my own intrinsic value. And again, like I mean, I've seen it firsthand. The club owner who is always keeping that rate low, even though they maybe are making more or are not negotiating. How about the rates that seem to never change over 5 years, 10 years? Like there's so much. And then after the pandemic, so much more changed. And so, one, I just want to do a shout out to all of you out there who are listening that, it's not an easy road. You chose a really difficult road. And I just want to tell you that I see you and that I shout you out that it's amazing what you're doing and that all of this is valid, whether this is for 5 minutes or for the rest of your life, however, if it's the thing you do at night or only on the weekends or when the kids are, asleep or whatever that is for you in your path, we need to look at what is it that we believe about money, because money, and this was hard for me to learn, money is neutral. It's a tool, it's a hammer, right? It's a thing we use to do things. And very often, I want to just agree with you, when we say it's bad, when we put that out there, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with these kind of ideas like self-limiting beliefs, right? Like I'll never get that show, that club will never hire me, or I could never do X, Y, and Z. We start saying that out loud, we start to believe it because we're saying it. That's the voice we're hearing in our head. And when we say that we're not worth being paid what we're worth or earning more, it doesn't necessarily mean that that club needs to pay you more. Maybe they don't, right? That's their policy. But it does mean that you, as a small business owner, can find other ways to also generate that. There's a lot of ways to do it. Maybe you're also in that bag where you're like, I'm not creative like that. I'm not a business person. I don't have that savvy. Well, it goes back to the experts, making sure that you are talking to people who might have ways to help you think in a different way,
Well, and I
right? The
think
way,
that's one of the biggest breakthroughs for me is I kept hitting my head against the wall going, I got to figure this out. I got to do this on my own. But like, there's a lot of information to unpack there. And so it's a lot easier to go and talk to an expert that's going to give you like the cliff notes and be like, here, this is all you need to know to do this. You didn't have to be studying this for the last 5 years. Um, Reach out to people. It's going to save you a ton of time.
yeah. And that, I mean, you guys are probably already talking to other musicians, probably some that run businesses very differently than you. And I also get the idea, like I get that feeling when you're like, I just want to play. I just want to play, right? Like I get that. But if you want your playing to become a career, this is the hashtag adulting piece where we have to figure out. And the reason it is hard is maybe you're not talking to the right people. Like maybe you're talking to people who are in the same boat with you. And one of the things they say, and I don't have quotes and names, but they talk about like you are the sum of the five people around you. So if
Mhm.
everybody is in the same boat, frustrated, feel like there's no communication, can't get a raise, always looking for something, like everything's always negative, and the people around you are like that, it's really hard to look at it and be like, I have something to put in a will. I've got value. This is, I'm barely making, in a year, $500. Like I'm just playing for free. Right. And when you start to say, there might be other ways for me to earn money, there might be other things I can contribute. I might partner with someone who has these skills, but we can still look at our value as a band and as musicians, as artists, bigger picture. There's a lot out there that can happen. So
And
that money,
musicians, we're great collaborators. I mean, you're already doing it in your band. So start thinking about how does that apply to the other things in your life that you want to get. Find somebody else who has the same goal.
right? That's a great point. There's probably a lot of ways, especially with virtual assist. I love small businesses. I love entrepreneurship. So like, there's always like, there's a virtual assistant. You can hire a company. You can maybe get a few people who want, like there's always ways like, how do you split it up so that you don't have to pay a lot of money? I love supporting small businesses. So this is part and parcel for that. Even though the will won't address who gets your business, your will is going to take care of a huge part of it. And then talking to an attorney is also going to help you figure out, how do you deal with all the other stuff, copyright, ownership of the band, names, trademarks.
You just made me think, like, what if I like died right after this interview and you didn't have the password to get into my computer? Like, what happens to all my online accounts?
That is
Like, do I have to do something for that? Like, is that like something I should write down for
yes.
people? Like,
Well, okay, again, in the chat, how many of you guys have either passwords that you've memorized? And please promise me that you're not just using one password for anything, for everything, rather. Please, please have different passwords. But I know you are, please don't have password 12345. There's services, and this is the stuff, like there are services out there. I happen to use a password manager. So I put in one hard password that I memorize, one, and then that is the key to unlock all the complicated passwords in my vault. But if I don't tell my partner, my husband, my kid, somebody else what that password is, then literally my entire infrastructure, like everything I do, including paying the bills of this house, no one would have access to it. Oh, I know. We were talking earlier, like where do people store extra stuff? Or maybe like you go on tour and then you have a shed in the back or like a basement with a lock. And then God forbid something happens, someone's reaching in, right? They're going into trying to find it and they find this like big ring of keys. And you're like, what is this?
where
It's
does
like,
this
is
go
this to a
to?
van? What was this?
You're just randomly trying things around the house to like see what they fit into.
Right. Well, and it's so real because, one, again, there are a lot of non-techie artists out there. So a lot of things are in envelopes. You're literally going in and opening stuff. What if there's agreements or contracts? I hope you guys have some, but if you don't, we can talk about that too. If you did do music and you put it out and it needs to be copywritten or stuff like that, I know that it can be a confusing path, but again, we can talk about that. And you also need to make sure that your family and the people who are going to get it know where to find that information. If not, if you're in the world where you're getting royalties, how does that get addressed? How do you make sure that that transfer happens? You know, I've
That is part of your legacy that you build as a musician, as you are getting these royalties and things. Like, it doesn't stop just because you die.
yeah, and your family is deserving of all of that, right? So yeah, there's a lot hidden behind in our brains and notebooks and files and password managers and lots of things online. Also, if you're doing agency work or booking people, or if you're like at that higher level of kind of executive, you're doing a lot of things, you have secretaries, like that information is important to also wrap up the business. If the business has to close, if it's not moving on, and all businesses are different structures and how they did it, but people need to know what to do. How about your Facebook account, your Instagram, your TikTok? A lot of folks are finding it very hard, if you haven't put that beneficiary piece in, to close off an account, and as a result, they're feeling a lot of grief, or they don't know how to handle how to share the news and hear from a very large community. You know, you're reaching people. So
Yeah.
I think for me, after this is our third of three segments, and I'm hoping that you can hear it, that everything you're doing has value and that we see you. We see how hard you're working. We see that you're not being paid enough. We see that you have families and friends and bandmates and club owners and a lot of people who are part of your ecosystem, part of your structure. And so I'm hoping that you'll take a chance and check in on the willfairychallenge.com. It is free. It is also, when once you're in there, you're going to get into a Facebook group, and I'm going to do replays in there. And then we're pulling together our messaging. So we're trying to make sure that if you miss it, you can always come to the next one. And the bottom line is that we're here for you. And so I love that you took some time to get to know me. Are there any other questions on your mind or anything else we should cover before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having this conversation with me, because even though like that motherly voice in the back of my head was kind of nagging and saying like you should start thinking about this, because I didn't see, I mean, all of the grief, extra grief that it can cause my family, and didn't really think about, where are my pets gonna go, and oh my goodness, the passwords and the online stuff and my music. Like seriously, like that music holds so much value that you've written. It's your little song baby. Like,
Well, and I see you like, and I want to say you guys out there are probably feeling the same way. Like you're getting amped up and you're like, oh, and there's this and there's that and there's this. So the Will Fairy Challenge is 2 days. I'm going to have the Legacy Lab, which is going to be a 1 day thing. And then I do have a 6 week program that help people carve out the time. So it's at different levels. I always want to make it work for people. So no matter what, please reach out if this is something that's important to you. Heidi's going to go ahead and go through all the programs. And so, we want to make sure that people get this done. So don't let money or objections. Notice I'm already like, oh, well, we can work it out. But you know what? It's worth it. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Like that's, I think at its core, what I'm going for here is that you're right. It can spiral. Adulting is busy. And especially if you're like overdue, like it's so
yes.
why not take the time to just start to get yourself into the right frame of mind, and just ready to do it. And we can get it done quickly. Actually, we can get it done quickly, affordably, and in the comfort of your own home. So that to me is just such a big plus.
And with nice small steps. There's a process.
There is a process.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. I look forward to meeting you all very soon. You find me in a lot of places. I will do the shameless plug, obviously, for this. But if you look over here at joewelch.com, I do a lot of things. I do love to sing. I have the honor of have presented, I was doing the national anthem at Fenway Park at a Red Sox game. And I did it with a partner who was a deaf Black actor, and he signed at the same
Oh,
time. Have I not shown that to you? Oh my,
no, I gotta
I'm
see it.
remiss. So if you go to my Joe Welch, you'll be able to see all the things I do as well. I love karaoke. So I do karaoke on Saturday nights online. I've been doing it. This thing has been in existence since the beginning of the pandemic. And so we built a nice little community there. So if you're ever stuck at home with COVID, you can always come and karaoke with us online. But that's just like the tip of the iceberg of the things that I do. I look forward to meeting you. Let me know that you know Heidi, and I promise to have your back.
And that's why I have Joe here. She understands like the support of community, the accountability of adulting, and how to break this all down into a small process. So you're not overwhelmed with all of this. We can still go and have fun and be playing off with all of our musical instruments and get this stuff done too. And so this 2 day free challenge starts on the 19th. I will be there because, as you know, I'm behind on this too. And no judgment, there is no judgment. All there is I haven't done it yet, and it's going to get done.
That's right.
Thanks to the Will Fairy.
The Will Fairy.
All
It
right,
has been
awesome.
such an honor. Thank you. You are amazing. And I'm so blessed. We have never seen each other in person. We've only done stuff on Zoom. And, it's amazing, the people out there. What a blessing to get to meet you. You are awesome. You are just so awesome.
Oh, thanks. Well, right back at you. And the rest of you out there who are watching this video, you're just as awesome for sticking through this and really understanding that there are some things that need to be done, and this is your opportunity to go get it. Let's act, people. Let's do it. All right. Well, I'm
You all,
Heidzalyn with
Sue.
Austin Entertainment Management. Joe, thank you so much.
Bye.
Oh, and one more thing. If you're
Oh,
watching this as a replay and it's past the 19th, keep watching that website. She does these more than once, but
absolutely.
don't procrastinate on that too long. Remember, we're not promised tomorrow.